Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you once again for taking time out of your day, your evening, whenever it is that you're watching this video. So, yes, I very much appreciate that. And so too does every living thing. May not feel like it, which we'll get to in a moment, but your dedication and commitment to your practice is the single most valuable and important gift you could ever give anyone anywhere. We all appreciate that. So let's address this ongoing thing that happens as we practice this course or any form of spirituality at all. It does not matter what tradition or traditions you're practicing, you were raised in, if any, what you're doing right now, if anything, there is a message for you here. That's why you're watching. And you may know exactly why you're watching. Maybe you're a subscriber, and maybe you're not. Maybe you just found this video on YouTube or it was suggested to you by YouTube's algorithm. Well, that's the Holy Spirit. You're here for a reason. You'll know the message that's intended for you, and it's likely that there will be more than one. Who knows, over the course of 15 to 20 minutes, there are a lot of messages delivered. So we all have days, no matter what our spiritual practice involves or looks like, where it feels like nothing's working. And we may very well ask ourselves, I've done it lots of times. I'm sure you've done it too. You may ask yourself, why am I doing this again? Why? Why am I doing this again? And well, we actually know the answer to that. Even though it seems to be a really, really good question at the time, you might be asking yourself that right now. Maybe you've had one of those days. Who knows, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe you're saying to yourself, "Oh, I wish this would just start to work." Well, we all need some encouragement on the path, don't we? So, this is what today's conversation is all about. It's so we can keep going. We do know why we're doing this. We have heard the call of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, call it whatever you want to call it, of course. And if you're new or not familiar with A Course in Miracles, you're about to hear me say, inner teacher, Holy Spirit, call it what you want to call it, a lot. It's very important. And you have heard the call to awaken. That's the call to awaken. It's why each and every one of us, and indeed anyone, is on what we call the spiritual path. The form or the structure of your practice, whether it's a formal, organized, traditional religion or something else, the form of that does not matter at all, including the form of this course, which is just one of many doors. That's what this course is actually teaching us, that it is not the outward appearance, it is not the form that matters, but the content, the meaning, Another way you could look at that is the essence of it, the heart of the matter. The outward form can vary, clearly, wildly vary, and that doesn't matter. You've heard the call of our inner teacher to awaken, and you are on the spiritual path. You're interested in spirituality in the first place because you've answered the call more than once, I'm certain. Or this video would not be of any interest to you at all. I mean, you can rest assured about that. So thank you for answering. We all have the opportunity to answer it again, again, and again right now, and again. Yeah. So, for our learning purposes, this course draws a contrast between illusions and truth, which may seem really, really obvious. Well, in truth, there are no contrasts at all. Truth is undivided completely, and there are no divisions, there are no opposites, but we're in the midst of waking up to that here in the world. So it appears because we don't see it. We think we're individual human beings. We think that we're separate from God, which of course we are not, and you do know that. Doesn't mean you have to acknowledge that. You could reject that categorically, and you could do so for the remainder of this lifetime. It's your choice. But our denying truth does not make truth untrue. It's still true. Despite our denial, despite our mad ravings and wanderings, truth is true. Sounds obvious. It is. And it's precisely why we need conversations like this and the encouragement that I'm hoping the Holy Spirit provides to you here today, because we can lose sight of the obvious. It's very easy to do because we add one layer of complication upon another to our lives, and we do it every day. And it's very easy to think, okay, truth is true. Uh, Tell me something I don't know. Okay. You do know that. We're just all prone to say, well, it simply can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. It's gotta be more complex, more complicated than that. So we run off and invent complications. Truth is still true, despite the complications. So what we have here in the course is a contrast for our learning purposes between illusions and truth. And here in chapter 22, section 2 of the text, Jesus shows us a visual image of illusions as someone or something wrapping themselves in a dark cloak, maybe with a hood where you can't see out, and just hiding the image of someone wrapping themselves in a cloak or a dark blanket, or you could say, walling yourself off in a dark room, turning off the light, perhaps headed over to the closet to wrap yourself in a blanket in the dark closet with the room darkened and the lights all turned off and pitch blackness all around to hide images like that. And if that doesn't sound exciting, well, good. But we do this all of the time. We do it all of the time. Illusions are like a cloak where we hide from joy. Hmm. That one may not sit perfectly well, so be it. It's what we do when we think we're separate. Separation itself, where we appear to be individuals separate from God, separate from other people, separate from animals, separation, 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 that's an illusion. All of it is an illusion. Not a single separation thought is true. Yet while we continue to adhere to it, we suffer. Why? Because we appear to be opposed to one another. In business, we appear to be in competition with one another. In our sporting events, which we love and adore, it's set up to have an opponent. I mean, those are just a couple of examples. Nothing wrong with a good football match. I love that. Very cool. But you get what we're saying here. When we adhere to illusions and the belief in separation, we suffer, and we're always seeking truth. We're always drawn to the light of truth. Always. That's why you're on the spiritual path. That's the call of the Holy Spirit to awaken, which you have not only heard, but also answered many times. Many times. So, what we do is when we think we're an ego, when we think we're an individual, separate, 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 we look for happiness all the time. But what we do is we exchange one illusion for another. We exchange one relationship for another, thinking that's going to bring us the peace of God. The other person in an intimate relationship, for example, is going to bring us the peace of God. And when they don't, we become angry and there's conflict. That's one example. We look for it in shiny objects. We look for it in the things that we buy. We look for it in our work arrangements. We look for it everywhere, and we're simply exchanging one illusion for another. On the other hand, truth is constant, and it brings joy. It brings joy. Misery and suffering, continued suffering with illusions, with adherence to the ego, this false sense of individual self, this belief in our individuality, whereas truth brings joy, not misery, joy, which is constant. Illusions are always shifting, aren't they? Truth is constant. Joy is constant. And that can actually, especially on days where it feels like nothing is working, boggle the mind. I get that. We've all had those days because it can be real difficult for us to even think about that, much less to begin to get an understanding of it. And herein lies the deal with this course. And let me say, all of spirituality. It's about experience, as you well know. We learn best through our experience. Understanding ideas such as these with the intellect has some value. Sure, it does, of course. Yet, that pales in comparison to your personal experience. When we actually do this course, we learn it because our experience shows us, it demonstrates to us that the ideas that we're looking at here, reading about, hearing this pixelated image on your screen talk about, these ideas are in fact true. Our experience shows us this, and that is a powerful way to learn and much more effective than simply getting it with the intellect. So when we adhere to this sense of separation, to illusions, we're constantly disappointed because we're trading one for another and we're becoming, maybe immediately, maybe after a period of years, dissatisfied with them. There's still something missing. Yeah. Well, it's really not missing. What we're doing is we're focusing on the illusion. You could liken this to a veil that's thrown over our face. We're focusing on the cloth that's covering our eyes, thinking that's reality. And maybe we're exchanging one veil for another and keeping it on. Yet truth is still true. Light is still there, always on the outside. We're simply in a process, so it seems, of removing the veil. So, in this world of suffering and illusion that we appear to find ourselves in, we're kind of frantic, really, when you think about it, exchanging one illusion for another, always looking for something out there. Well, spirituality, this course, is all about looking within. So we look at the ego. That's what we do. We look at it with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus, with whatever you want to call it, as our guide. Just look at it. When you allow yourself to do this and be led in this way, you'll see the stark contrast between illusions and truth, and choose truth more often and more often and more often, which, of course, is a game changer in the way you see yourself, in the way you see what appear to be other people, in the way that you see what looks like the world that we appear to inhabit. You'll notice the languaging on that, appear to inhabit, all of that. And the world of illusions is the world of time because they don't last forever. Everything's finite. Time gives way to eternity. This is a message that I hope you find some hope and some comfort in. Time gives way to eternity. Truth is eternal, it is constant. Time always gives way to eternity. Illusions always give way to truth. What you can do right now is take this message to heart and speed up the process. We all say we want to do this, so let's do it. Again, we learn the course by doing it. Illusions always give way to truth. The question we all have right now in the present moment is, do we want to listen to our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, or the ego? Do we want to peel another layer off of the veil right now? Illusions always give way to truth, not the opposite. Time always gives way to eternity. In fact, Time is for our awakening. The purpose of time is for us to make this decision to look at our entire experience with the Holy Spirit and set aside illusions. People say all of the time, and you may have one of these days again where it feels like this is taking a long time. Well, that's what time is for. We all have the present moment right now, which is another one of those simple and obvious statements that we clearly overlook in our daily life as we obsess over the future and dwell on the past. We're almost never present. But that's when we make this choice right now. So, of course, you're invited to make that choice right now. And the more you choose truth, the more you choose the Holy Spirit, the more you choose love instead of fear, the more you'll begin to see things differently, which is as much as we can really say in words. It's got to be experienced. And when it is, mm-hmm. All right. So if again you're new to this, welcome. If you are a veteran course student, again, welcome. This is for everybody. Questions are inevitable on the path, of course. Spirituality is a deep self inquiry. So they're more than welcome here. And if you somehow are having one of those moments that we all have where we have a question and we'd like to ask it, but we're hesitant to ask it because it may sound like a beginner question, there's no such thing as that. I invite you to ask anyway, because you are not the only person on this wobbling, spinning ball of rock watching these videos. It is an international community, which is cool. That's very cool. That's modern technology for you. There is somebody on the other side of the world who is most likely wondering the same thing and would be thrilled, utterly delighted if you were to ask. And you could be positively influencing the journey, the trajectory of someone whom you're not likely to ever meet physically in this lifetime. It's very important. So if you have questions, please do ask them. And if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that as well. This is the prompt over here in the corner of your screen, that icon. Click that. You'll be invited to subscribe and join us. And I thank you for tuning in today. Again, please feel welcome to ask questions if you have them, and I will speak to you soon.